Today, you're gonna learn to master the basics of the weekly nutrition check-in so you can get to a level where you're helping clients achieve insane results and working with enough clients where you can go full-time as a nutrition coach. This is the exact process I've used to create a decade-long career as a nutrition coach working with thousands of clients. New coaches and my students always ask, how can you respond to your weekly check-in feedback so quickly? How is it under 5 minutes? It's because I've completed over 20,000 check-ins. Here's what you need to know. Starting with number 1, how to respond. If you want to get your nutrition clients better results in a way that doesn't take up all of your time, and we'll get to why more may not be better in a second. If you want to be clear and effective, you need to be specific with what your clients need to work on, and you can't give them too many options. And of course, you want to get them involved in the solution, but you as the expert need to come up with the solution. After training so many nutrition coaches over the years, I've realized the ones that really struggle to deliver their clients great results, they focus on giving their clients way too much. It's too much of the, here's all of the options of what you could do, which feels like good coaching, but in reality, it just leaves our clients feeling confused. So when your client talks about a bunch of the problems they're facing, pick out the most important one and then present a solution to tackle that within your weekly feedback. And this is where we start responding in a way that's clear and effective, and it doesn't take all of our time. Now, I don't want you just to gloss over anything or disregard what your client is saying, but you want to read through what they're describing and pick out the most important stuff. And when certain things feel like they're kind of taking your client off track, you want to bring them back to what matters most. For example, let's say you have a client that's struggling to even track their food, and they bring up something about meal timing. In their weekly feedback, they say, I had a coworker tell me that I should be eating 6 small meals per day. Should I switch to that? You don't want to disregard that they said that at all in the first place, but if they're struggling to track their nutrition, you want to bring them back to everything that matters and maybe what they're overlooking or not consistently doing. So when they bring up this point, you're going to address it and you're going to say, keep in mind, you've struggled to track your nutrition every day, and not one day have you got to over 100 grams of protein. So although more meals could be helpful for you, you're still not doing the thing that I know is going to matter the most. So let's work around consistency with your tracking and eating enough protein, and you're gonna see the results that you're looking for. Remember, we gotta look at this in the big picture. So we're reading through the information that they've given to us, and once we have an idea of how we'll respond and what we'll say, here's how we're gonna actually do the response. This is the process I call the hybrid check-in. It's a mixture of video response as well as written text. We do this all within an email. This is a change I made 7 years ago that saved me so much time. My weekly nutrition check-ins went from 20 minutes per client because I had manually been writing everything out to around 3 minutes in total. Here's how I do it. I use a tool called Loom that allows me to put my face on the screen and talk over what I'm seeing with the client's weekly feedback. This allows me to be a much more effective communicator because I'm not describing what I'm seeing, I'm pointing it out and talking it over. I take this video where I describe what I'm seeing, what changes we're going to be making, and I insert it into an email with a paper trail around what I'm changing and the next action steps. This gives your client the ability to hear you as a coach, which is going to build that rapport and connection because they feel like they're talking directly to you, even if it's not in a live scenario. And it's going to allow you to be much more effective with your time. If you want more details on this hybrid check-in process, go to the first link in the description below, and I put together a completely free 20-minute training on this process. It's going to change everything for your nutrition coaching. Make sure to check it out. So now you have an idea of how to respond. Let's talk about how to assess what you're seeing and what changes to make. And number 2, how to assess. So that's how you're going to respond. You want to get specific with your feedback and not give your clients too much. Focus on 1 to 2 things they can change or action steps to integrate into their next week and get them bought into the solution. Now, every nutrition coach is going to ask different questions depending on what type of clients they work with and what they help their clients achieve. But in the Dr. Mark method, we teach our nutrition coaches to collect feedback and ask questions based on the following parameters and what outcomes like weight loss or muscle gain they help their clients achieve. But in the Dr. Mark method, we teach our nutrition coaches to go through weekly feedback and based on what kind of outcomes they help their clients achieve, for example, weight loss or muscle gain. But in the Dr. Mark method, we teach our nutrition coaches to go through this feedback based on the following criteria. Number 1, results. Like, what has changed? We take a look at, has there been any weight loss? Has there been any change in their training performance? Then number 2, we look at adherence. How well did the client stick to the plan? We also want to tease out biological feedback. Were they hungry? How were their energy levels? levels? Did they make any notes about how well they felt during exercise? Number 4, behavior and motivation. How does the client feel about this process? Are they ready to tackle another week, or are they feeling like they want to take a step back and they're not as motivated? And lastly, what's coming up? What do we need to plan for? Remember, your clients don't live in a bubble. There's going to be things like social events and things that could take them off track that we need to plan for. So what information do I need to know as a coach to work this into their plan? The answers to this framework is going to guide what you assess and what you change. Now, you can make adjustments in a bunch of different ways. You could make changes to the actual food plan by adding in calories, removing calories, or making changes to macronutrients. Maybe we're working their protein levels up, or we're bringing down their carbohydrates to push the deficit. We want to take a look at the results they're getting, as well as how well they're sticking to the plan, and then make some changes based on that feedback. Generally, if you're going to make changes to food levels, it's going to be a 5 or 10% calorie adjustment. And remember, there's a narrow window through which you can change calories, because we can't go lower than 20% or 30% maintenance without seeing appreciable results, or we're going to start questioning, did someone actually stick to the plan? But in many cases, food levels aren't going to change at all, especially if our clients are seeing results and they're sticking to things. But what we're going to do is propose different action steps that make the plan easier to stick to. This could be bringing back what we're doing. Maybe instead of tracking calories and all of the macronutrients, we're just tracking calories and protein. Or we keep doing what we're doing, but we give them certain behavioral stuff to work on, like meal prep and protein timing, or how to navigate social situations with food, whatever they need the most in that moment or through that week. A lot of times with their help, they're going to be pointing out what's wrong, you're going to be confirming that, and then you're going to be creating action steps to overcome those things. For example, if your client has terrible consistency, one day is super low, one day is super high, and you've both come to the realization it's because they're never prepared, then maybe we create some action steps around meal prep or batch cooking. Hey Tracy, I've noticed that you have a really hard time getting prepared for your week. What things could you do this upcoming Sunday or on the weekend to get better prepared for the week? Would it be meal prep or batch cooking? This weekly feedback isn't always going to be food adjustments. A lot of times it's going to be you helping your clients remove the barriers that are getting in the way of them sticking to their plan. And remember, as a nutrition coach or a coach in general, you don't always have to be changing things. 90% of this job is going to be reassuring people that they're on the right track. And if you don't sound like a broken record at times, you're probably not doing this right. Okay, at this point, we've talked about how to respond and how to assess these check-ins. Last up, and this might be the most important point of the entire video today, how do we gather this information? Point 3, how to collect check-ins, and what are you asking? If you're thinking, Dr. Mark, how can you respond to a check-in in 3 minutes? Here's why. I can respond to a check-in so quickly because through time, I've learned to ask better questions. If you want your clients to submit better information, then you need to learn to ask better questions. Because we've all been there. When I first started nutrition coaching, I used to get email responses that were giant walls of text. And you don't want to have to get good at reading through all of this information and pointing out what's important. You can avoid this situation entirely by asking a few streamlined check-ins in a check-in form where your clients know exactly where to find that and how to submit that information, and that's what you're going to be responding to on a weekly basis. Here's some of my favorite questions. Number 1, describe at least one success or win you had this week. Number 2, and these aren't in any particular order, after I've gotten them to score their adherence to their nutrition plan for the week, I want to get them to reflect on it. So here's what I ask. Reflect on how you scored your adherence to your nutrition plan this week. Before your coach responds, reflect on the successes you had and how you could build on them, and some specific strategies or areas for support for some of the problems you faced. When we ask these reflective-based questions, they're gonna start coaching themselves. And number 3, do you foresee any challenges or things we need to plan for this week, like birthday parties or vacation? Asking questions targeted towards things we need to plan for in the future is going to make your job a lot easier because you're going to have that information while you're doing the check-in, and then you don't have to set up a plan just to find out there's something else you need to plan for. All of these questions are going to be on the same weekly check-in form that I use for all of my clients. Each and every form is the same. I keep the form generic enough that it applies to everyone. but the questions are specific and thought-provoking, so I always get good answers. The only thing that's individual for my clients is the tracking spreadsheet that they track on. Using Google Sheets, you have to make an individual version of those, but the Google form that I use as a check-in form can be the same for everyone. Each client has their check-in sheet, and then I link the check-in form at the top of it so they always know where to find it. Now, if you've never seen my check-in form or my tracking sheet, over 5,000 nutrition coaches have downloaded it and used it in their own coaching businesses. So if you're interested in getting instant access to it, go to the second link in the description below so you can check it out and use it as is or make it into your own. Now, I needed to do thousands of nutrition coaching check-ins to get good at this process, but I'm hopeful that now that you know how to respond to the check-ins, how to assess the information that you're seeing, and how to collect this information, you'll now be instantly better at check-ins. But you probably still want some examples of this process being done. So check out this video I've linked up right here. In this video right here, I'm gonna walk you through 5 different check-ins in 15 minutes so you can see how to exactly do this process. Check out the video now, and I'll see you in there.